You know, I'm right. The podcast that uncovers the origin stories of some of the biggest names in entertainment, sports, media, entrepreneurship, and so much more. Nick Durst here, along with Joe Calabrese. And Joe, our guest today, what can we say? It was inevitable that she'd eventually end up on the show with us, like so many
Absolutely.
people in her life in the past have been on the show.
That's right. As you can see here, wearing my patriotic Old Navy shirt because she works in politics. I think that's a first for us, actually, believe it or not.
Is
But
it a first
anyway,
for you guys?
but more recently, she was on the last season of Big Brother. She works in Washington, D.C., so we'll get to pick her brain a little bit about that. But without further ado, we welcome in Nicole Mimi Hayes. Mimi, how are you today?
Hi guys, what's going on?
How are you? So
I'm doing great.
we're glad to
Thank you for
get you
having
here.
me.
I know we saw you at the premiere party for BB26, or at least I saw you. You and Joe chatted. Uh,
Yeah.
I had to get out of there in the rainstorm, but we're glad to finally have you on with us. And I gotta just start off by asking, like, what's the last year been like for you? Going into like the house and I back to reality, and now you're a whole calendar year later.
Yeah. Oh my God. It honestly has been such a whirlwind since coming out of the Big Brother house. First of all, I spent 65 days there, and
Hmm.
like there is really no way to communicate the way my brain is like permanently altered from the chunk of time that I just spent like disconnected. And like not in like a weird way, but I think it's just like I don't know. I don't think that it would have been any other way. So coming out and like seeing the reception that you get from the community, like seeing myself on TV was very weird because it's just
Uh,
like it's an outer
yeah.
body experience. Like sitting there and I'm watching me, who I've always been like just picture baby Mimi. And now I'm like this big grown adult version of myself playing like these silly little games on a TV show. It was also like so surreal. And it's still weird. I go to the grocery store and I like go do regular stuff, and people are like, oh my God, Mimi. I was in freaking Aldi, like looking a fucking mess. And a girl was like, oh my God, Mimi. I have like turkey in one hand, chicken in the other hand. And she's like taking photos. And so I think that's just like a part of it that you never
Yeah.
really get used to. Like it's just a fun, quirky like set of fans and like players.
Yeah.
And it was cool. And like it's been cool a year later. So I enjoyed it and I'm still enjoying it.
That's great. We're going to talk a lot about Big Brother later. Last thing on Big Brother for now, because you mentioned the fans.
Yeah.
You got out of the house. The game's over. You get your phone back. You open up Instagram. How many followers did you have from when you entered the house to after? Because now you're up over 20,000.
Yeah, it's funny. So I'm like a goody two shoe, like deep, deep down in my soul. And so before you go, they tell you like put all of your socials on private and like yada yada yada. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes the fans can be rambunctious and they like search up your family and like do things and just so
Yeah,
like keep
yeah.
your things on like private, right? And so while I'm like in the house and like things are happening, my social is completely like so I come back and I have tens of thousands of requests in
Oh,
my queue. Like before I went, maybe I had like 6,000, 7,000, or something like that. Like literally in one swipe of me just making, I go from that to like 20,000, like
easy.
instantly. And it was so
Lot
crazy.
to
But what
handle.
was like most crazy was Twitter. I
Okay.
had 20,000 Twitter notifications when I came back.
It's rough. It's a lot to go through.
Crazy. My tweets were going viral.
That's
So
great.
I had so many notifications when I came back. I was shocked. I was like, and then when I saw some of the stuff, I was like, oh.
So how quickly, once you were back on your phone, did it take for somebody to slide into your DMs and be like, "I'll pay you this to promote this crazy product"? And did you have to turn some of those things down because they're just insane?
Oh, instantly. I mean, and they are still on like a constant, consistent flow. I think the reality is like once you come out and you start like getting your footing and like what your
Yeah.
branding is and kind of, how you want the audience and this newfound, fan base and Z-list celebrity status you have, like how you kind of want to navigate that. And I think you kind of determine like which opportunities you're going to take and not take based on like,
Yeah.
however you decide to brand yourself. So, I mean, I think it's still a constant flow. It's really just about being very particular about like your brand and like where you share your
Mhm.
time and your energy and all of the things. Cause,
Yeah.
still got regular life to live. So you want to be like protect
Mhm.
your energy.
What's the first thing you ate when you were back in the real world?
Oh my God, what is the first thing that I ate when I came back? Oh, it's so funny. I had and pizza. It's an East Coast thing. Maybe it's like particular to DC and New York, but it's called and pizza, literally like the and
Yeah.
sign pizza.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of like these like deep dish.
Oh,
It's delicious.
sounds
And
good.
that was like the first DC thing that I can think of. I was like, oh babe, can you take me to go and get and pizza? And I just like smashed off on I just like
So,
down.
I mean, what is your go-to type of pizza? Is it that style? Do you have a different type of style? You have certain toppings you like? What's your go-to pizza?
Okay, so y'all probably don't know this, but I'm originally from St. Louis. I'm born and raised in St. Louis,
Huh?
Missouri, and we kind of have our own style of pizza. Like
Mm,
people may be familiar with like St. Louis style ribs or like our barbecue, but we are known for this extremely thin crust pizza. There is like a homegrown brand called Emo's Pizza, and they're literally franchised throughout the state, and they have some of the best freaking pizza that you've ever tasted. And so I love that like really thin crust, maybe a little bit of like sausage, some bell peppers, like nothing too crazy, but I'm a thin crust pizza girl if I had to
yeah.
choose.
So you mentioned St. Louis. In 2018, I had to go there on a business trip. Now, I've
Ooh,
been to Florida, I've been to Las Vegas, I've been to the Caribbean, the Bahamas.
yeah.
There is no heat like a Midwest St. Louis summer heat. I mean, it was really rough to breathe and to walk. Like, I mean, and you've moved around, but like talk to everybody about like, St. Louis weather. What's it like throughout the year?
Well, first of all, St. Louis in the summertime is stuffy as and I went to college in Houston, which is like hot. And so like St. Louis in the summertime though, it takes it to another level. And then I think when you also think about the level of tornadoes that we have in the Midwest, especially in like the St. Louis area, like I grew up doing tornado drills. That was just like a
Wow.
part of I've lived through so many tornadoes now. It's actually kind of insane. And so like St. Louis weather is like really weird, but I appreciate that we have all four seasons. Like you're going to get a real fall
Mhm.
when that season comes, right? Like you're gonna have the time to go to the pumpkin patches and go like apple picking. Like I grew up doing that kind of stuff. So I really, really enjoy that. But I played 12 years of competitive softball all up and down Missouri, mostly throughout the summertime. I get super tan and I'm a summer baby. So my birthday's June 30th. So, I love the summer. It's hot as hell though, but I love it. Like it's one of my favorite times of the year.
Yeah, summertime's the best. I hate the winter when it's freezing cold. So that's for sure.
I
It's
love Christmas though.
Yeah,
Like
Christmas is great, but
I do love Christmas. I can't lie. I love
weather is rough. But
Yeah.
you mentioned it. So playing competitively through sports there, St. Louis girl,
Yeah.
a decision to say, I'm going to Texas, yeehaw, Texas Southern University. You go there,
Yeah.
you get your bachelor's degree in print journalism.
Yeah.
Was there any other options on the table anywhere to play softball on the collegiate level? And while you're there, what activities and internships did you partake in?
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. My decision to go to college in Texas was really just needing to get away from St. Louis. Like, I don't know how much you guys know about it, but it's a small place and it's like a family town, but it's also can be like a really rough place to grow up. So I felt like I just kind of needed to get out and like
Mhm.
expand my wings a little bit. I'm a first generation college graduate, so I was doing something that no one in my family had done before. And I felt like in order to actually like do it, like commit myself to it and like do it right, I needed to go as like far away as possible. And I know that may seem weird, but I'm just like, I don't know if it would have been the same, like going to Mizzou or or a Wash U. Like, I just don't know if it would have been the same. And so when the opportunity came up to go to TSU, they offered me an academic scholarship. I did play 1 year there, but I mostly leaned into the academic scholarship, and it was the best decision that I ever made in my life. I was editor-in-chief of the newspaper there. I went in wanting to be a news anchor. That was like, when I grow up and become a big girl, I want to be a news anchor. I want to be on the news, mama. I want to be on like CNN. I want to be. And so I really like threw myself into that throughout college because I just felt like, I don't know, I had the face, I had the vibe. Like, this isn't a radio face. Like, the girls need to see me. Like, and so um can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, sorry. Yeah. And so I mean, it was a great decision. I moved away
Yes.
and learned a lot about myself, had a really good time. And yeah, I mean, it helped shape who I was. And HBCUs are like unlike any other place on the country. So it was amazing.
Yeah, great stuff there for sure. And then from there, you end up receiving your master's degree a little
Yeah.
later on in education policy and leadership from American University. So
Yep.
talk to us about the decision to then go to grad school.
So when I first got out of college, I was really just in like full hustler mode. Like, where am I going to work? Fill out 100 applications. Like, where am I going to live? Like, where I moved to Atlanta for a little bit, and I was just really trying to figure it out. And while I was there, I actually started to work for a bridal magazine, which was like super random. But I was like, I want to put my writing skills to use. Like, I want to kind of stay on this path of working in journalism. And one day I got a phone call from a college friend who reached out and was like, hey, there's something called the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. It's located here in DC. They'll give you an internship. They'll pay you. They'll give you somewhere to live. Like, you come down here, you get to work
Mhm.
on Capitol Hill. I think you'll be great for it. They're looking for people to work in press. And like, you're one of the best communicators I know. Like, you should come here and do this. And so I did. I went, and like, very quickly I fell in love with politics, and one of the areas that I really fell in love with was education,
Mhm.
because for me I feel like education plays such a deep role in like the origin of my life.
For sure.
It's kind of like my ticket out of poverty, if you will. Like, I'm the first person in my family to be able to go to college, and it's opened up an entirely new world for me. And so I just fell in love with it and the opportunities that it could provide other young people. And I felt like in order to do it good, I actually needed to go get like some formalized training. And I was like, you know what? Let me go get my master's degree, education policy. Like, I'm already doing the work. I had already been drafting laws and gotten a few bills signed into law, and have been working for a member of Congress for a number of years. So I was just like, I'm doing the
Yeah,
work.
doing it already,
Yeah,
right?
I'm doing the work. So I may as well go and get like the technical training to back it up. And so that was really the thinking behind that.
What made you decide to pursue a career in politics, if you don't mind me asking?
It kind of just happened. Like, I'll be honest, I didn't grow up with politics in my life that deeply. Like, I couldn't tell you as a child if my mom was a Democrat or a Republican. It wasn't just something that was discussed. And so I had a friend reach out to me once I had like graduated from college, and he suggested an internship, and I was like, okay, sure, I'll try it. Like, I didn't have anything to lose. I wasn't getting any
Yeah.
callbacks from the jobs. I had applied to CNN. I had done 3 interviews with CNN. I was like, oh, I have this job. Like, I moved to Atlanta because CNN gave me 3 interviews. Like, I was like, you know what? They gave me 3 interviews. This job belongs to me. Like, let me already be in Atlanta so they
Yeah,
can just
ready to
go
go.
ahead and offer and not have to worry about like relocating me. Y'all, I have not heard from CNN still to this day. I never got a call back from CNN. But like, I don't know, like
Don't
that
you
to
hate
me,
when companies do that? Like they go to
ghost
interviews
you.
and they ghost you. I mean,
Yeah,
not to
What?
go off on a tangent here, but I mean that's happened to me so many times
it happened to the best of
where
us. Don't
I've
worry.
gotten to the final round of an interview and they make you do like this crazy unpaid project, which is total nonsense, and then you never
Mm,
hear from them
hate that.
again. It's just there's something wrong here. Mimi, maybe you could do something with your political friends to fix these rules and
You got to
regulations.
write a law about that.
But
Yeah.
it should not be allowed. I mean, recently, or last year rather, I went through 7 rounds of interviews with one company,
Oh my God,
did a
7?
project, got offered the job, then didn't hear anything for 2 weeks, and then
Oh.
was told, "Oh, we had to cancel the job." I mean, you wasted so much of my time.
Oh, I'm sorry that happened. That's so
Oh,
weird.
it happens. It's rough out there trying to apply to jobs in the corporate America.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, corporate America is a beast, to say the least. Very much a beast. So, you know, but we move.
We move.
For sure. So, I mean, you were things were going crazy for you. You know, had a lot going on in your life, getting
Yep.
married, and you're like, let me try out for Big Brother. Like, what made you think like now's the time is right? Did you previously apply? And what was the process like for you as you're progressing and you're telling your fiance, like this might be happening?
Yeah. Oh my God, y'all. That was probably one of the craziest moments in my entire life because there were so many things happening at once. But let me just lay like the background. So I applied to BB25 a few weeks after BB24 ended. So I think it may have ended in like September 2022-ish,
Yeah.
maybe like late September. I had submitted an audition tape. Now, this is the first and only thing that I've ever submitted. I've never submitted an audition tape to any other show. I've never ever applied to any other thing ever in my life. This is my first time ever doing any of this. I've watched this game since I was a child. My mom's a huge fan. My cousin's a super fan who's all up and through
Hmm.
Big Brother Twitter. Like, I'm familiar with this game, and as I'm watching BB24, and there's something iconic about watching Taylor win, right? We remember how iconic that moment is. And I'm watching and I'm like, you know what? I think I might be able to fuck this shit up. Like, I think I could actually do this. Like, and so I'm sitting there and I'm kind of talking to my husband about it. And he was like, he never really watched. Like, every time I watch, he's always kind of like, you're watching your show, but he's not like into it. Like, he's on his phone,
Yeah.
he's working on his laptop. He's not like, he doesn't really know what's going
Sounds
on.
like my wife. She's like,
Yeah,
what do you
he's
do?
not like interested in that way. And so season 24 was the first season that I actually got him to like sit down and like partially at least pay attention to where he kind of like knew what was happening on some level. And so as we kind of watch the finale, he's like, you know what, babe, I think you may be right. Like, you should do it. But I'll like I will say some shit and then I'll be like, that's I'm tripping. I'm not gonna.
Mhm.
And so one day, like a Saturday, he just comes and he's like, my dog Gizmo. He's like, me and Gizmo are gonna go for a walk. Like, I set your tripod up downstairs, your ring light, like get dressed and like do the audition tape. Do it today. Like, we're gonna leave the house and go for a long ass walk and do. And I was like, oh shit, he's like serious. And so I felt like with that level of enthusiasm, I get dressed up, I do my hair and my makeup, I get real cute. And honestly, I just go in front of the camera with like this level of just, I don't give a fuck that I probably hadn't had in like a very long time. Like in my work life, I'm not like, I'm very like serious and like astute and very like, I have to be taken serious in the workplace. So I have to come across like a certain way. So I'm not like how I am with you guys. I'm not really this jovial and like my everyday interactions with people.
I'm a little surprised too at the way we're interacting now. Yeah, because all I know is I briefly interacted with you in Manhattan, but just from watching you on TV. Very
Yeah.
interesting, yeah.
And
Yeah, you were
so
much more mellow in the house, and now you got like a lot of energy.
yes. And so I feel like it was, I don't know, I can't explain it. It was just like
Yeah.
something kind of happened when I was like, I pressed go and I just started like saying stuff. And I did it in one take and I watched it and I was like, oh bitch, this might be,
Good.
yeah, this actually might be kind of good. Like, if I were to watch this, I would think that she's like fun and like
Mhm.
somebody that I like want to know. Like, and so I like threw some little cuts on it and pictures and stuff to kind of like illustrate points and like highlight some things. And I submitted it and I didn't think anything about it. Honestly, I didn't think they were going to call back. I'd never applied before. In my mind, I was like, they probably just pick people off of like the internet. I didn't know how it worked. Like, I
Yeah.
wasn't that deep into like searching what the process was. And like, I didn't get that deep. I was just like, let me record something and submit it and like 60 seconds and I left it at that. And so months go by, I get married, I get engaged. So I applied before I was engaged. So months go by, I get engaged, and I hear from them maybe like 6, 7 months later. I just randomly get a call. I'm in my office one day, and I'm sitting there, and a California number pops up. So for context, my childhood best friend, who's also my maid of honor, she lives in California.
Hmm.
And she has a work phone that I don't save the number to because it's just like her work phone, and like she has a fancy job. So I don't call it, but I like have the number. So like California numbers pops up. I don't know anybody else that lives in California. I just assume that this is her because who else is calling me in the middle of the day from California? You know, I'm at work. So I pick up the phone and I'm like typing. I'm not even looking. I'm like, what's up, bitch? And who ends up being my casting producer is like, what's up, bitch? Is this Nicole? And I was like, who is this? They were like, this is such and such calling from Big Brother. We want to talk to you about the show. And like, do you have a minute? And like, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, yeah. And so, yeah, that's how it happened. And it continued from there. We never stopped talking after that first phone call. So
when was the wedding?
the wedding was June 4th.
Okay,
of
so did you go?
2023.
So was your honeymoon the Big Brother house solo honeymoon, or did you go on a honeymoon before or after?
Well, Big Brother really was not a honeymoon. I wish that it was more relaxing, but it was very much not that relaxing. But we did go on a big honeymoon. We actually just went to St. Lucia.
Ooh, nice.
It's August, so maybe like a month or two ago. We went to St. Lucia. It was beautiful. We stayed there for 5 days. Stunning. 10 out of 10 recommend. The mountains are beautiful. The water is stunning. Like, love St. Lucia. It was beautiful. So we got to do the honeymoon a year later and don't regret it because St. Lucia was great.
Good, thank God. What was the biggest surprise about being on the show? And considering that you ended up watching it back like most of you guys do after you leave the house, was there anything shocking or surprising as you were watching it back? Maybe something that you didn't realize when you were in the house that watching back you figured out?
I think what probably was most surprising to me is how many of my scenes in DRs weren't included. That was probably the most surprising to
Yeah.
me. In terms of like everything else that I kind of like, I think that you have, and I don't know if this is true for every cast, but I feel like with this cast at least, or in my experience with the cast, we kind of had like conversations post-season where like it really brought a lot of clarity. And obviously like people aren't saying like what they say or what happens in like verbatim in conversations, but I think those conversations that we like had finale weekend and kind of like in those 101 settings were super enlightening for a lot of different reasons. Now, but when you watch back, what's most surprising is like the story that is being portrayed. Like I think the storyline is like most interesting to me because I feel like it is kind of a different experience from what you live. And so it just really like shows you like which things are kind of like hyper focused or fixated on that may not have been like in my mind, I didn't think that was like the biggest thing. That was like something that we like maybe talked about for like 10 seconds, but it becomes like so I don't know. Like I think I was most surprised by like the storyline of some things. Like Cam is like the underdog who's like fighting for his life. Sari is like the villain, kind of like mastermind.
She was the gangster.
Yeah,
but I think the interesting about Cam, the thing about Cam is that at the beginning, I don't know if he was really on America's good side, but he came back in and competed and everything.
Yeah.
That's what I think really America, he was very endearing, and that's why he ended up winning America's favorite player. But I don't think that was the case at the beginning. I think you were probably right in your assessment on him at the start.
Yeah, but I mean, just little things like that. Like when you see these things, or even seeing like the tandem between Matt and Jag and like the Minutemen, like when you see all of these things, like nobody's walking around the house saying like they're the Minutemen. You know what I mean? So like you see these things, it's like, oh, it's kind of interesting.
So I'm curious because something that the thing that really shifted the season from the second half would definitely be Felicia getting paranoid and taking out Heisem. That changed the whole game. In the house, Now, did you feel that way too when you watched it back? Was that exactly on cue? Because to me, that seemed like the pivotal point of the season. Because I think Heisen would have probably just destroyed everybody, in all these competitions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when the decision was being made at the time or being considered in the house, I wasn't that big of a fan of the
Right.
decision. I really liked Tyson on a personal level. Like we had a great relationship on a personal level, and we were working together in the
Yep.
professors. And excuse me, quite frankly, the professor kind of was born out of being left out of like the alliance that was built the first night around Riley's HOH. Like these were kind of all of the people who weren't included in that. So it kind of felt like the alliance was born out of necessity. And I think initially, like that was the bonding moment that we all had. And I personally took a liking to Heisem because like I don't know, Heisem just my kind of person. Like when you
Nice
see
guy.
him in action, like how disciplined he is down to like the time he wakes up in the morning, like the time that he works out, what he eats. Like he's just a very like disciplined, he like runs like a well-oiled machine. And like I just appreciated that so much about him. And so I wasn't as like I hate to use the word intimidated for lack of a better words, but I just wasn't as deeply in my feelings about how he may have come across in terms of being like, bossy or, very direct
Yeah.
or very like domineering. I didn't really care that way. I'm like, that doesn't I guess I'm the kind of person where I have a lot of those aspects, especially in my everyday life. And I don't really navigate through the world worrying about like whether or not people think I'm bossy or like when I'm at work, I'm here to do a job. Like it's not my
Right,
business to
right.
be worried about like whether or not y'all are like she's
Sure.
being too direct right now. And so I don't care about that type of stuff in the way that everybody else does. So I was just like, we're getting rid of him because he like suggested who we should put on the block. Like,
You gotta go to
they're
the
not
number.
including us
Gotta go
in
to the
what
numbers
they're
then.
doing. Like, take
Right.
them the fuck out if you ask
Yeah,
me.
he was
I don't
smart.
care.
He was smart.
Like,
So you mentioned your diary cut room scene. So are they calling you all in every day into the diary? How long are you in there for? Some people we've had on with us before have said like, they're gonna kind of tell you, can you say something like this? Or like, so talk to us about the process in the diary room. How often are you in there? How long are you in there for? And when you're walking through the competitions, are you seeing a visual or they're just saying to say this, say that?
so you go into the diary room. I think everybody probably goes in every day. Like every day there's a level of like check-in that you have, a
Yeah.
level of like how you feeling today, or like, oh, you had a conversation with this person. They see everything, right? So
Yep.
they're painting a story and like contexting things together. So hey, you had a conversation with Kirsten last night and she was feeling very like paranoid about possibly being nominated. Like, can you walk us through what you were telling her in that conversation? That may be like a prompt that you get. So it's not necessarily like, so remind us how
Yeah.
Kirsten said this to you and you responded and
Yep.
said that. Like, it's not that. It's just like you had a conversation with her. She was feeling very paranoid. Like, walk us through some of the things you were saying to her if you can remember. Like, what point were you trying to illustrate? How were you trying to make her feel in that moment? Like, so just kind of these open-ended questions that kind of pull things out of you. Like, obviously, as you guys know, the idea is for you to narrate what's happening in your avatar, your player,
Yep.
so that we can like paint the context for the show. So that's, I would say, is my experience in talking to the DR, not verbatim, like say these things, but very much these open-ended questions like, okay, you were in the pressure cooker for 14 and a half hours. You guys, almost came close to breaking the record. Like, how does that make you feel? Like, is this something that you're excited about? Like, did you know about this record? Like, paint to us how you were feeling in the moment that it came down to just you three and you were, so I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And that's when you kind of get those like moments. But yeah, I think everybody kind of gets called in there every day. The volume in which you get called in there, I think changes depending on like
Yeah.
what narrative is being,
Right. And if you're on
you
the
know,
block, if you won Power Veto, if you're that's
correct, exactly. So if you win veto, like everybody's getting called in there every day, but if you won veto, maybe you get called in there like 6 times today, and somebody got called in there like 3 times, or
right.
something
Okay.
like that.
Fair enough.
And I think the duration also varies. Like they'll tell you if they just kind of want to get a quick point from you, like a quick point of view on like, hey, we are looking at
Yeah.
the veto competition, and we saw that, you know, you were one of the people that ran over and like hugged
Yeah.
Heisem. We know that you guys are in the Professors Alliance together. Like,
Mhm.
why did this make you excited? Like, or something like that.
Makes sense. And when
And
you're in
so
there, you're just looking at a camera. There's a camera points at you. That's it.
yes, essentially how I'm looking at you guys.
Yeah.
So if I were talking to you right now and like you could see me on camera, but like your cameras were off and I can just see you and hear you, it would essentially be that. Like you would
Okay.
ask me questions and I would sit here and answer. I can answer like this, I can answer like that, I can answer like this. Like I can
Yeah.
answer however like I choose to answer. There's not like a level of enthusiasm or like
Hmm.
certain
Unless you're
prompts.
telling Julie how good she looks on eviction.
Yes, that's not like a prompt. They're not like, hey, tell Julie that like you kind of
You
go with
look fabulous, Julie.
yeah, you do or say whatever, honestly, whatever you want to do or say. And I guess they kind of pick and choose like what they want to use. And I think if it's certain points that they may be trying to illustrate or like need to redirect things, like they'll kind of, you know, reframe a
Yeah.
question. So
Right.
instead of
They know what they're doing. So
yeah,
yeah.
so
So yeah.
exactly.
Well, thank you
They've been doing
for
this.
peeling back the curtain on the diary room for us. Everybody knows how it works. Uh, for you on your season, there was a bunch of showmances going on. Did any of them surprise you?
I'll be honest with you. I think that not we, but I think that like the Riley and Matt, what could have possibly been a showman's, I don't know if we would categorize it as that today, but what could have possibly been a showman's back then, I don't think that anybody was surprised by whatever chemistry may have existed at that time. So that was like natural. Corey and America, I think because I like saw them kind of
Yeah.
closely in action and I had the kind of relationship with Corey where like at the very beginning stages of you know, their friendship that kind of turned into a relationship. Like I kind of know how he was feeling and how he was thinking because we talked a lot about this in the house. And
I,
so I probably wouldn't have anticipated them getting together when I first came into the house, but like
now,
seeing the
when you
pictures.
go home and watch, and they show them in the shower, I couldn't believe they showed that on TV. That was
Oh,
the
Oh,
and
you
I was
can't
there
believe
with my
it?
camera, like the mom on Mean
you
Girls. Like,
watch it,
you're
filming.
doing great, sweetie.
And how about Jared and Blue?
Oh, Jared and Blue. Also, I wouldn't have anticipated that when I first came into the house. And but also like seeing they had chemistry though. Like
Mhm.
they had chemistry. And so like I don't know. I think when you come in, like you don't really and to you it's hard to know who's going to be in the showmans, but I think once you like see people like actually in action, like in real time, you're kind of like, okay, it
Right.
makes
So,
sense. So I think like seeing all of the couples that started to like materialize through the season, seeing them in action once I saw them, I was like, okay, this is cute for y'all. This makes
right.
sense.
So what a lot of people don't realize that are fans of the show is
Mm.
that you guys in there have to cook and clean and do everything yourself. It's like the real world in there. So
People don't know that.
little people, some people might think it's catered because there are other reality shows. But who is the best cook and who is the worst cook on your season?
Best cook. I mean, I'm gonna give best cook to my girl Mama Fee. Gotta give best cook to Mama Fee. The variety of dishes that you made throughout the season were just oh, chef's kiss. Worst cook. Oh, I hate to even say this because I'm gonna have to give it to Luke. And I say this because the week that he was there and he was on slop, this man literally put like a teaspoon of water in the slop, put it in the microwave, and then gnawed on it like it was like wood cereal. I had never seen anything like that in my whole entire. I was like, sir, this is not even this is just like raw steel cut oats with water on top. Like it's literally nowhere near cooked. And he ate it like that, like and would put cinnamon on it. And I'm like, are you okay? So I think for that and that alone, that is probably the most bizarre thing that I've ever seen in my life.
You gotta get creative, right?
Yeah. I mean, I
I
was
mean,
on
I've
top.
never
You
had
say
I've
that.
never had it before, but I mean, I've heard terrible things.
Slop isn't that bad. Honestly, I'm a pageant girl, and like at some point in your pageant training, you kind of live on steel cut oats. It's great
Right.
for getting the flab off of your abs, and especially right before you go on stage. So, like, I didn't mind it. Like, it really is steel cut oats with like a bunch of protein powder and flax seeds and like,
Okay, so it's not bad,
hey,
just tasteless.
I mean, who wants to eat oatmeal or some variation of that every
Right.
day for a
Right.
week?
And you
Sure.
can't put like cinnamon or anything there. It's just plain, right?
You can put cinnamon, you can put like honey,
Okay.
You can season it a little bit,
you
right? You
can.
got some flexibility just to switch it up.
Honestly, Blue made the best like savory slop. I don't know what she would do to it, but it literally tasted like a risotto or
Oh,
like
wow.
a rice or it's like some variation of that. And it was delicious. Like she would make huge pots of it and we would like because
Really?
we were so
Okay.
hungry.
Hungry, yeah.
So you can like play around with it. And we tried to make fried pickles because you can eat pickles and olives. I think you can eat pickles and olives and like something else.
Okay, that's not as bad, not as they make
Not
it seem.
terrible.
Yeah,
I know
you
like
can.
Joe didn't wasn't when Pooch was on with us, he said he was asking for Tums because he had a sweet tooth and he wanted the flavor and he was making
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And you can take like medicine. So you can take like Tums. Oh
yeah.
no, you could have it was like the vitamins. So they had like gummy vitamins in
Okay.
there. So we would literally go and get like 10 gummy vitamins and go
Wow.
like,
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
All I know is I don't think anybody's ever defended slop before. So, spoken like a true politician, defending the nutritional value and the small benefits of Big Brother slop, which again is like oatmeal in substance. So, not necessarily the worst thing for you. There's
not
some
really.
creativity and some room there to maneuver with it. But again, playing like a politician, you were very sociable, but you
Diplomatic.
played a very diplomatic type of game, right? It was your strategy, right, to fly under the radar from the moment that you got in there.
So in my audition tape, I was like, listen, I know that I can come across like I'm an acquired taste. Like I know that about myself. Like I've lived in this body for a very long time. I am a 30-year-old woman. I've had plenty lived experiences. Like I know that I am not for everybody. And I know that I need to like temper that down because I don't want to be like off-putting and be like weird. And so I'm like, for me, I think flying under the radar and coming across very unassuming, coming across very non-threatening, coming across as very just like, I don't really know much about this game. I'm just like a lowly teacher who is just trying to like, I'm just happy to be here. Like that was like the vibe. And so leaning into that, you see me early on in the game I make these or become a part of these alliances, the Brown Sugar Babes, the Professors, the Bye Bye Bitches. There's also the fake alliance of Legend 25, and then For Real was also an alliance. And I become a part of these alliances early on because as I present myself in these, like I feel like I know the right thing to do each week. At least what's in the best interest for all of our games at the time being. In the moment, I knew that. I mean, Kirsten, the first week with Kirsten and that whole thing, like everybody just kind of whatever. And then I think we get in week 2. I'm like, y'all, I feel like it has to be Riley. They're like, oh, we need to. I'm like, I don't think that we need to use Riley to get Heisem out. Like, that's not the thing to do. And I don't think that we need to be going after Heisem this week because then that takes a huge shield away from our side. And then the rest of these guys really don't have to do any work to win this game because the biggest threat that could possibly be a roadblock for them is out because we got rid of him. And then I don't think that we need to get rid of Red because the possibility of blindsiding Bowie Jane and Cameron, who, although this relationship is like, weird and kind of like fractured, but like blindsiding them on the vote pushes him, Cam, back to the side of the house that he originally came from. And then Bowie Jane will just feel slighted and won't have any reason not to go and work with him. And I try to say all of these things in a way that doesn't come across as bitchy and like I'm smarter than you and like I know everything. And that was just really hard for me to do. So I'm just like, guys.
Yeah, right. That's a good synopsis of about the first 4 weeks or so. It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
And
And
Um,
so
and Zingbot got Mimi really good.
she did.
yes,
Yeah. I love Zingbot.
Zingbot came from my neck after I was evicted. And I was like, you know what, Zingbot? I never had
Keeping
no
your
smoke.
name in the news, you know.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never had no smoke with you, Zingba. You can talk a little shit. I talk a little shit every now and again. It'll be okay. I'll be fine. It's okay.
So you basically tried to essentially just again be diplomatic, play the middle the whole time you were in the house, right?
But I
Eventually,
wouldn't even necessarily say it was playing the middle because I felt like I was like definitively on one
You were with the
side.
right,
professors. You
the
were
Yeah.
professors.
definitely with
Yeah,
them.
okay.
So I think like it wasn't that I was like teetering back and forth whenever somebody else was in power. Like,
Right.
and I think that's
But
probably not
you were
intention.
just cool with everybody, though.
But
That's
I think
Right.
that, and I think that to your point, is like I never went out of my way, not like intentionally, to tell the other side that I wasn't like necessarily working with them. Like I kept lines of communication. Like early on, I had conversations about working with America. Early on, I have conversations about working with Corey. I keep a line of communication with Corey. And then like I have these kind of tattered conversations with Jag every now and again, where it's just like when he's in trouble, like maybe I'll use the veto on you if I win. And I wasn't really planning to do that, but like just in case I need you to do me a solid at some point, like I want you to at least think that I was going to do that. And so like I just try to keep a certain line of like I'm not particularly in one place. And I think that I do that because I see very early on, like Mama Fee, Miss Sari, and Izzy are being seen as a trio. They spend a lot of time together, especially Sari and Izzy. They spend a lot of time together. They're always seen together, like always a part of conversations
yeah.
together.
Izzy played really like a too obvious like for my in your face like who I'm with game, and I'm surprised
Correct.
she made it as long. I'm surprised Izzy made it as long as Izzy did.
Correct. And so I think for me, when I see something like that, although I'm working with you guys, like I'm here to win the $750,000 on my own. So like I don't want to like dedicate all of my time to just solely being with y'all. Like I'm with y'all and I like fuck with y'all and we're like good. You don't have to worry about me in that way. And I guess people don't know you, so they don't know that. But I'm not also gonna like I have thoughts and ideas, and sometimes I don't like agree with some of the things that you guys do. And I think like that level of like autonomy that I wanted to have probably didn't sit well with my alliance, but I'm also just like that's who I am in my core. I'm an only child. Like I can't like I don't know how to do that in that way. Like I just do my own thing. I don't know how to like be
You and
like
Joe have a lot in common.
Yeah,
are
Close
you
we're
an
an only
only
birth,
child,
child
birth,
too.
Joe?
I am a
birthdays are very close. Only
When's your
child.
birthday?
few days after.
July what? 4th.
Yeah.
In
We
your
are a very we're a patriotic podcast, and this comes up every now and then.
nice.
But Nick is also on a patriotic day as well.
No, oh, when are you? Memorial Day.
Yep.
Ah,
He knew
nice.
it, just like that.
I love that. It was either that or like what, Labor Day
Flag
or
Day, Labor Day.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
something. So
We
I
just
love
had
that.
somebody on with us for Flag Day, so it was very patriotic.
Oh, I
Yes.
love that. I love that. Joe, I swear I get my husband's a Cancer. His birthday's July 8th.
Hmm.
So like cancers, I get along so well with cancers. They're like my
Yep.
spirit animal. So
That's right.
yeah.
Hard on the outside with the shell, soft
Yes, you
inside.
get you
Yeah, all that
Joe is the
nonsense.
Zodiac guy.
yeah,
He's all about that.
he understands me.
You guys got the
Yep.
same rising moon?
Oh, see,
You're
I
the
don't know. I
same
don't get that deep. I don't get that deep. I don't know.
Joe
I don't
does.
know
I
the
don't know what
moon.
the
I do. I do.
Wait, what
If
is yours?
I so quickly,
rising
it's like
sun, rising
I,
moon. What is it?
so I'm a Scorpio rising because I got the eyes like a Scorpio.
Oh, I wonder what I
Um,
am.
I don't know any of this thing.
so essentially, like if you know your birth time, you can specifically plot your chart, and if like you come to me, I can basically give you a full reading. So
Oh,
we'll get there eventually.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I had my son turned one a few weeks ago, and I gave Joe, and I was like, "Do the reading," and he sent me like all these things. And I was like, "Oh, we'll see if this stuff comes true."
Oh, I love that. Happy
Yeah.
birthday. Belated birthday to you,
Thanks.
baby boy.
Yeah,
Oh, he's so handsome. He's
Oh,
such a
I
cute
love
boy.
that. What's his name?
Scott.
Scott. I love that. Scotty.
Yep.
Such a
Love
cute
it.
name.
It is. All right, let's get back to the game for a second because
Okay.
I want to talk about what you would have done differently, if anything.
Oh, you know,
Come out guns a blazing, swinging.
Because everybody says,
Turn
no,
shit up.
I wouldn't have done anything differently. And like that's a bullshit answer, right?
no.
Like,
Yeah, no, that's a bullshit answer. I mean, we're talking about $750,000, and it is
yeah,
not an easy feat to go through
no.
the casting slash vetting process for Big Brother. So even like, just some of this season about like people wanting to leave and go home, I'm like, the casting process is like a mother freaker. Like it is hard. So like you gotta want to be like, you know what I mean? Like you gotta be like dedicated to it once you kind of get into it. But you know, a year later, as I kind of think about my game overall, I'll be honest with y'all. I was in there, and at the time, I felt like because I had spent those first few weeks trying to get my alliance to understand like what the right thing should have been, so we could have really just like ran away from with the game, because I feel like we had all of the pieces to like go really far and then just like battle it out at the end. And I feel like all of the people that were like on that side were like, and this is, I'm not like being shady or being funny, but I feel like these are all like good, like polarizing, you know, like imagine just like battles between Cam and Matt, or like, or not Cam and Matt, Cam and Heisem and like, or Red having like, just imagine these things that you. So anyways, I think that in those first couple weeks, I really just got so frustrated that I felt like my voice wasn't being heard and like respected and appreciated in a good enough way. And then I found out about like the Izzy vote and everything about that. And I agreed to, not even agreed to the flip. I was always voting to keep Mama Fee, right? So like I'm voting to keep Mama Fee, and that just is what it is. But now there are other people who are agreeing to do this, and this is great for me because this is always where I was going to be.
Yeah.
So fine. And you know, following that week in my mind, I know that Jared and Sari have now lied, and this is like a tainted relationship. And but I also know that like these other people have this thing that they've been solidifying for a very long time. Like this house is, the sides have stayed the same. And so no matter where I go, I'm probably in a pretty shitty position. So how do I just like survive
Yeah.
this? And I think that what went wrong that week is, I think I'm saying all of this building up this context is because this, I feel like up until then I was like in a good spot. And I feel like what went wrong is when we get to the double and I pick Blue over Corey, it exposes me in a way that like now it's like, you know what,
Yeah,
bitch?
pick your side there, yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, it's like, okay. So, and I think that's kind of like where I go wrong. And in my mind, my thinking at the time is I feel like I don't have like somebody who's my person, like
Mm-hmm.
somebody who I can like, and I love Mama Fee, but I have to play the game with Mama Fee in a different way because she plays it in a more brash way than I would play. And I love her, and we like have this final two and this thing
Oh,
together.
yes.
But I have to navigate this like very delicately. There's a lot of money on the line. Like I'm not like a retired Mama Fee who can just like, I can't do that. You know what I mean? So I
Right.
have to like I have to navigate it in a different way. And so when I think back to that week, I was just really feeling like I needed a person. And I was like, if I could like buy something from Blue with like giving her a shot, you know what I mean? Like having this shot to it be between me and her at this HOH and show some type of like, maybe this could be like a thing.
Mm.
And it was the wrong time to make that move. But in the moment, I was just like, fuck it,
Yeah.
like you got to do something because none of these people really care about you on
Right.
either of these sides. So,
Yeah.
like,
That's yeah. So I mean you're in there. Obviously, you think you're gonna win in the beginning. Like you're like, I got
yeah.
this. Was there anybody else that you stood out to you after the first week or two? And you're like, okay, gotta watch out for this person. I think they have a legitimate shot to go to the end.
I would say in the first couple weeks, I'll just say after week one, who I thought had a chance to go far was Matt.
Yeah,
I
okay.
always thought that Matt had a chance to go far. I always thought that Heisem had a chance to go far. And I think I probably thought that Sari had a chance to go far. I realized when I walked in and I see her standing in there, she has the flute in her hand, the champagne, and I'm like, hey, I know
Yeah.
who you are on night
I
one.
I I would have put her up immediately, right? I don't know. She
So
gets to buy, she doesn't have to compete.
Right.
That was
but you know what happens is I also had literally like before I went into sequester, the last thing that I watched was her win Traders. That was literally like the last
yeah.
one of the last things that I watched. And so when I walk in the house, I know her from Survivor.
You're
Obviously,
like,
I've
you know
seen
her. You're like, oh, maybe
some
I
of
can
the
work with
seasons,
her.
so I
Yeah.
know who she is. And so I remember like in the first maybe hour of us being in the house, I'll go upstairs to the game room and I'm talking to Kirsten and we're like having this moment like, oh my God, you're so cute. You're so pretty. And she's like, who do you think we should work with? And I'm like, do you know that Sari just one traders? And she was like, what's traders? And I was like, oh, bitch, like
That's
nobody
so
knows this. Like, so I literally didn't think anybody had any idea. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, I know how she operates. Like, let me not be on the wrong side of that. Like, I know how you operate. And so I feel like I could use that knowledge to like navigate our relationship. And quite frankly, I think that's probably why, like, she can probably sense something from me the same way I can sense it from her. So even though we were working together, like you don't really see us
right.
like put our brains together. We kind of just like orbit around each
Mhm.
other in a way that is just kind of like I got my eye on you, and I don't think that she like knows why I had my eye on her, but I think she could feel it. Like she knew that I like was like a little bit smarter than I was
Right.
letting on, and
So
I
you,
think
so
that
you-
made her a little
yeah.
like
So you identified the good competitors at the back because Suri made it towards the end.
yeah.
Heisam, he I think was the best competitor game wise in the game, so he would have made it to the end if Phyllis didn't take him out. And then Matt, he's the runner up. So I think
Yeah.
you had a good. It's good that you spotted the talent right off the bat. So I was just so curious about that. And Matt had his showmance, but I don't know if you know about his big bromance with Joe over here, because these two guys were all over each other at the premiere party. They just
I knew we were gonna hit it off. Listen, I know who my people would be. Like
Oh,
you just,
I love that. I love
yeah.
that. I mean, listen, everybody loved Matt. I mean, I think that was kind of
yeah.
obvious from
Mhm.
the beginning. Like when you learn about
No
the
one
story.
said a bad thing about him ever.
Yeah, when you learn about the story and kind of everything that he's been through, it's like it's natural for people to like root for and champion, somebody who has like such a shared history with like navigating through adversity. And
Hmm.
so like it was natural. And for me, like the competitor in me and Brick and I love that and I resonate with that deeply. And these are like the type of people that I root for when I'm not competing against them. But like me competing against
Right.
you, like
Yeah.
this is a threat to my game. And like in the event that I like had won an HOH, like my eye was always on
I
like one of the strong competitive
have
men.
to do it.
Like that would have just been what it was. So,
Right. Absolutely. So, Big Brother, crazy part of your life, but you've been all over. You mentioned it before. You're from St. Louis.
yep.
You're born there. Houston, you go to college there, start a professional career there. It's tax free, income tax. Move to Atlanta, you're in Atlanta, you know, didn't work out for you there thanks to CNN.
Yep.
Uh, Washington, D.C., it's where you're at now. And
Yep.
Big Brother house you also lived in, that was rent free. So, which of these locations was your favorite place to live?
Oh, there is a part of my life that I lived in Houston that will just, I mean, your college years are some of the best years of your life. Come on now. And like having them lived out in a big ass city like Houston with so much going on, there's so much to do, so many things to see. I promise y'all, I have lived like 10 lifetimes in one. I say that all the time. I'm like, I'm on my 10th life here. Like, this is every era is like a new life for me. So, like, I had just so much fun in Houston, and this is like pre big girl adult bills
Mhm.
and responsibilities and you're in college and you're just like going and I love learning. Like I've always been like a nerd and like just enjoyed school and all of that. So like I actually enjoyed going to school, but it was like fun. College was great and like it's Houston and you just I don't know. It was such a vibe. So like of all the places that I lived, Houston is probably like my top
Okay,
favorite.
fair enough.
But DC is like living in DC as an adult and being able to experience this city like like unmatched. DC in the summertime, all of the rooftops, all of the brunch is like a staple in DC. If you come to DC and you
I
don't go to
love
brunch, what are
those.
you doing? Why are you here?
How,
Why are you here?
how far are you from Potomac?
Oh, I may Potomac may be like an hour, maybe like a little under an hour. So I'm not like neatly tucked in DC. I'm kind of on the outskirts of
Like
DC in
Harlem?
Maryland,
Okay.
but I'm
Virginia?
like I'm
Okay.
a small suburb just outside of DC.
Okay.
I hear the DMV area is beautiful.
It's beautiful.
That area between Baltimore and DC, that whatever it is, that little more than an hour drive. It's
Yeah.
about the same distance from here, like we're from New York City. So from New York City to Philly, it's the same distance from like Baltimore to DC.
Yeah.
Uh, but I had my cousin. his mother remarried, and they were in DC, like closer to DC for a brief period of time.
Yeah.
And like the beaches over there are beautiful. Like everybody loves Ocean City. So I hear really great things about that area.
I love DC. I mean, also, and like if you want a big girl adult job or big boy job, like where else are you gonna go? This is where they got all the big bucks. You gotta come here to
Two
if
of
you're
our
into like
two
stuff.
of our former softball teammates both moved to DC over the last few years, and one of
Oh,
my groomsmen, he lives in down there for a long time as well.
nice. I mean, I love it here. Like my husband's from here. He's born and raised here. So like
Okay, how'd you
he's
guys meet?
we actually met out at a bar, just like
In DC?
at NDC. It was like a lounge. It was like a bar. It was like a little lounge. I was actually
Oh,
out with one of
fancy.
my girlfriends, and you know how like your girlfriend brings you along because she's like gonna see a guy, and then like his
Yeah.
guy friends are gonna be there. So we get there, and the guy friends are like assholes. Like they're upset because I'm not interested in any of them, and it was just like weird. So I'm like, I don't got time for this shit. So I like walk away and I go to the bar, and then like over walks my husband, and I'm already just kind of like, "Ugh, I don't feel like being bothered. Leave me alone." And he's like, hey, and all of the things, and
That's suspicious.
hi turned into 1 date, 2 date, 6 years go by, and here we are.
There you go. If you would have said no, you would have never met your husband.
Yeah, that's right. So, I gotta thank my girlfriend. She was there from day one.
Everything happens for a reason.
That's right.
I'm guessing her and the other guy didn't work out too well.
No, her and the other guy didn't work
It
out.
never happens like that, you
Yeah,
know?
no, her and the other guy didn't work out. No.
Yeah, like this, it always happens like that. Like, my good friend Brian, he went, was going, he was like the same scenario as you. He went with our friend at the time, Andrew, and they were going, this guy Andrew was going to meet up with the girl at the mall. She was bringing her friend. Well, it didn't work out for Andrew and the girl, but the girl's friend and my friend Brian happily married now many years later with a child. So that it happens a lot. It happens a
That's
lot.
how it happens. Hey,
Yep.
I mean, I'm not mad at it. I was over it. I was ready to go and walk out, and in walks your husband. So, I know people are like, I don't like meeting people at the
Yeah.
club.
You
It's
never know,
weird.
Joe, when
And,
Mrs. You know I'm right's gonna walk in on you and
I
it
know that's right.
change your mind.
Well, I think Miss Rosalie is Miss. You know I'm right. You know,
I
so
like
like she got to be the second in command, I guess. His wife is the one who like helped him come up with the name for the show. That's why she's considered, Miss. You know I'm right.
Shout out to Rosalie.
That's it's amazing. So, was your husband at the time? Was he impressed with your fitness background? Did he like the way you look? And you're also a yoga instructor, right? So, how did you get into that?
Well, I'm not technically a yoga instructor. I just worked with a brand to like host a yoga session, and I was so
Okay.
freaking sore afterwards. So, I probably need to work on my like stretching and all of the things. But my husband is a veteran, and so like one of the things that we do and that we enjoy to do is running together. Like we
Right.
run 2, 3, 4, 5 miles together, and it's like kind of with the dog, and it's one of those things that we just look forward to doing together. But early on in our relationship, we spent a lot of time at the gym together, and especially during COVID, just like working out a lot and like doing all of the things. And I think in my intro package on the show, there's like a scene of me, him, and Gizmo like running through the neighborhood, which is like those little Baywatch and like all the vibes. So like fitness had always been like a huge part of my life. I've been playing softball since I was a very young girl. I was a triathlete. I played basketball. I ran track and I played softball. So I grew up as an athlete and stayed active, have continued to stay active. I run at least like 2 miles every morning. Every
wow.
single morning is just, I don't know, this is my body is like used to navigating that way. And so I wasn't concerned with like my level of fitness going on the show. Like I felt very fit going in, like I felt very in shape, I felt very healthy. I was also coming off of like competing, still competing in pageants. So like my diet was on point, my abs were like I was like, shit, I look good, and I'm actually in shape. Like I'm not just like I'm not just like a thin person. Like I'm actually really in shape. And so when I think you're able to see that in like some of the competitions. Like I don't ever do terrible. Like I'm not ever in like the bottom half of competitors. I think maybe in like the escape the nether region, I was like out in the first round. But otherwise, I always do relatively well in the competitions, and I always feel like I have the ability to win
Yeah.
them. Like I never feel like, okay, this is so far out of my zone. Like I'm stretching myself to the limit or to the max to do
Yeah.
this. Um,
You guys got to leave the house quite a bit for your competitions. That
we
must.
did. We actually did get to leave the house. Like Escaped Another Region was, I don't know if obviously I don't know if they'll use it this season or not, but or if they have used it, but Escaped Another, that set that they took us on was so freaking, it was like walking into like a horror
Yeah.
film, like walking onto the set of like Friday the 13th. It was literally done up so immaculate. I was like, every time we would walk into the backyard or walk into a new set and like see something, I would always be like, oh, y'all deserve every fucking dollar that they give y'all. Cause this shit is
Yeah.
like to a T. I'm talking about like everything is painted, every detail is like, so yeah, they're badass. The stage designers, set designers, they
You did a
like,
good job.
yeah.
Sure. Mimi, in your life or in your career or in your reality show career, what would you say is your I'm right moment? What I mean by that, it's a time or place where you wanted to pursue something. You asked somebody for advice. They said, Mimi, that's a terrible idea. That's not going to work out for you. Don't do that. And you were like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. And in the end, you will see why it is that I'm right about this. And I can tell you I told you so.
Ooh, I think the moment that I immediately think of when I moved to Atlanta after college, I was broke as hell. I was applying for jobs, couldn't find a job. And I applied to be a flight attendant with Delta. And I ended up going through the whole process and I get it. Like, and I was just kind of like bullshitting. I was just like trying to tell my mom that I was like applying for something and like doing something because I didn't have a job. I wasn't even like serious. And I ended up getting selected. There were like 400 people there. It was like a 12-hour, every 2 day, 12 hours a day process. It was so freaking long. And me and like five other people end up getting selected. And I was like, oh shit. And so when I get selected, I literally wait. They give you like a month to accept. And I literally wait until like the final day. And I'm telling my mom, I'm like, Mom, no, like I didn't go to college and get a degree in journalism and like move to Atlanta. I'm gonna work for CNN. Like I'm gonna be on TV. I'm gonna be like a news anchor, not like
Yeah.
a reality TV personality. That wasn't in my, I'm like, I'm gonna be, and I'm like, I can't waste time. I'm like, this is like a young person's game. If I like spend the next 2 years traveling, there are going to be so many young people that are going to come out and be prettier than me. They're going to get those jobs and da 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 da. And my mom was like, no, you need to take that job. And it was like $70,000 a year. And it was like a good job, good benefits. And like, it wasn't bad. Like I could have been a flight attendant and like had a great career and a great life. And I was like adamant about not doing it. And I didn't do it. And then I sat at home for months and I still didn't get a job. I'm working at the magazine and they're paying me crap. And then out of the blue, this person calls me and asks me to do this internship in DC. And like that's the thing that like
Okay.
changes
I'm right. You
changes
knew
the
it.
Right.
trajectory of my life. And again, like my mom was like, this is a terrible, my mom is an accountant. Like she's
Oh,
she's been a CPA for like 30 years. So me just being like, oh, I want to get a degree in journalism. She's like, girl, you need a real degree so you can get a real job. Like, I don't know what you think you're about to do with
Mhm.
your life. And so like passing up a $70,000 job with no job prospects is not really a smart thing to do as a broke college student who maybe has like $1,000 to her name, who just graduated from college and moved across the country. And so I know you're right moment is just like, I don't know, taking my life into my own hands. And I feel like that my life has been a series of me just kind of like jumping off of the cliff and waiting to see what happens. I think that's a testament to me playing the game of Big Brother and me, graduating high school early and college early and coming to DC and working on Capitol Hill and being able to write laws. I just never really planned on doing any of this shit. I just never gave myself the
Yeah.
ability to be scared to do it. I just always talk myself into doing the shit that scared me the most. And, it always kind of worked out. And that's not to say that I didn't work hard at it. Like I worked hard at it and I put like a lot of time and energy into this stuff. But like I did that because I didn't allow myself to be scared. And so yeah, that's my moment.
so Mimi, last question from me. Would you say your life has been all about me?
I think my life has really been all about me, and now it's about we because I have a husband and a dog, and we're gonna have a family, and And we share a family together already. So yeah, it's been a lot about me. I mean, I was an only child raised by a single mom, grew up in the house with just me and her. And, we didn't have like the best of everything, but she worked really hard to make sure that like I stayed focused and I stayed on track and that I like had a good childhood and that I was like a good person and like you know, that led to me being able to have some really amazing experiences. And honestly, along the way, I was very selfish. I was very selfish in Big Brother. Came a point in the game where I was like, fuck all of y'all. I will do this on my own. I don't trust any of you, quite frankly. I don't really like y'all like that. So you see this like manifest in different ways. And so that is a lot of my life. Like me being selfish and like just wanting to do what I wanted to do has like boded well for me a lot of the times. And that's not to say that it's always right. Like I've done selfish shit and like whatever, but like it worked out. And sometimes I think you need to have a level of selfishness, especially as a young person, especially in your 20s, so that you can like be bold enough to like do the shit that you want to do and not really care how it makes anybody else feel. And I think that's how you like take control of your life. For me, when I get to the end of my life, I want to feel like I did this shit to the max. Like there was nothing that I exhausted all of my opportunity, all of my breath trying to like create whatever type of life that I want to live. And I'll be happy with that. And I think that's like, we should all lean into that more. So that's my, that's my Oprah moment for the day. Okay. You
Well, we
get a
loved
car.
hearing it.
You get a car.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Listen, you got a lot of things going on since you left the Big Brother house. This was amazing to do. We had a lot of fun doing this. We wish you the best of luck, you, your husband, your dog, everybody moving forward. Hopefully, we get to see you again in person real soon. Mimi, if there's anything else you would like to share or promote, by all means, go ahead. And like I said, we wish you the best. Thanks again for doing this with us.
No, thank you both. Thank you for having me. Obviously, I love running my mouth, so I'm sure there are a lot of run-on sentences in here. So just like cut it off
No,
wherever you can find like a
now you're
pause.
good. Now you're good. Don't worry about it.
You guys can find me on all socials at Mimi_Hayes on Instagram. On Twitter, I'm Mimi.Hayes with two S's. And yeah, come hang out. Like I do a lot of fun stuff and speak at cool events and like host cool events and like, you know, putting on some cool content and just like staying out there and having fun and enjoying my life. So if you want to come and being part of all of the craziness that my life has become over the past couple months and weeks, then yeah, come hang out. It's a lot of fun on this side.
All right, Mimi, we appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. For everybody listening, there was no issues on this, but if you're watching the video, you might have seen Joe popping on off the screen, but no issues. Oh, everything
From
worked
that point on.
well. So that's going to do it here for this episode of You Know I'm Right, which was a perfect episode. There was no issues with this, no issues with our amazing guest, Mimi Hayes. For my coach, Joe Calabrese, I'm Nick Durst, and this has been You Know I'm Right.